Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 105th episode. अभी तक के पिछले 104 एपिसोड्स में इसी प्लेटफॉर्म पे करीबन दुनिया के 1,500 से ज्यादा स्कूल लीडर्स पार्टिसिपेट कर चुके टू शेयर देयर ओपिनियंस, आइडियाज, ऑब्जर्वेशंस, इनोवेशंस एंड परसेप्शंस अबाउट हाउ इज द एजुकेशन वर्ल्ड changing or the K-12 space gonna evolve in the coming times. To put it very simply, what's gonna happen in schools? So before we start the call, just some ground rules so that you know and it's easier for everybody to interact. This is a bilingual platform, so you can use English or Hindi, any of the languages. If you use a third language, that might be a problem, but ये दोनों भाषाएं आप तसल्ली से इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, not a problem. Secondly, it's a timed platform, so once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It is just to keep this activity crisp and enjoyable for everybody so that none of your schedules get disturbed. And before we start, the question that we're going to talk about today is, and the topic rather, is education innovation. इसको समझने के दो aspects हैं. One of the aspects is education कहाँ जाने वाली है, उसकी आप लोगों की forecasting, आप लोगों की भविष्यवाणियां और आप लोगों के विजन्स या what you envision is going to change in the education space. And the second part of it, if 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, what will be the specific reason that a student or a parent would want to come to a physical space to learn. Because the way we understand the model of a school, the definition of a school, it has already been obliterated. Because the institution that we are going to reopen would need a definition of its own and a completely new one. Because physical spaces का foundation learning पे से खत्म हो गया है. टीचर का psychological fear circuit क्लास में से खत्म हो गया है. क्लास की साइज या स्कूल की साइज क्वाड्रपल हो गई है. करीबन 4 गुना लोग आपकी क्लासेस अब अटेंड कर रहे होते हैं. अब आप केवल किसी बच्चे को नहीं पढ़ा रहे होते, आप एक पूरी कम्युनिटी को इन्फ्लुएंस कर रहे होते हैं. So before we start, a very small introduction of Blub World. Blub World is a magazine meant for teenagers. We work on a very simple concept of inspiring children across the world, and we put it very simply in teens inspiring teens. हम हर महीने दुनिया भर के ऐसे टीनेजर्स को ढूंढते हैं जो कुछ अमेजिंग कर रहे हैं जिंदगी में, और उनकी स्टोरीज करीबन 5,500 स्कूलों में पढ़ते हुए बच्चों और टीनेजर्स तक पहुंचाते हैं दुनिया भर में. एंड अभी तक हम ऐसे करीबन 350 से 400 टीनेजर्स को अपनी मैगजीन में शोकेस कर चुके हैं. अब आज के इस कॉल में या ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स जो एक प्लेटफॉर्म है, इस पे हम एक ही बात जानने की कोशिश करते हैं कि ओपिनियन लीडर्स क्या सोचते हैं कि अब आने वाले समय में ये एजुकेशन स्पेस किस तरीके से एवोल्यूट होगी, किस तरीके से चेंज होगी, भले ही वो पेडागोजी हो, भले ही वो मेथोडोलॉजी हो, भले ही वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, भले ही वो ऑपरेशंस हो, या वो स्कूल के फाइनेंसेस हो. बिकॉज एवरीथिंग हैज बीन चेंजिंग एट अ ड्रामेटिक पेस कि यहाँ पे काफी कुछ बॉलीवुड मूवीज के जैसा हो रहा है कि हमारी जिंदगी अब ट्रेलर बाय ट्रेलर चल रही है, नॉट बाय अ मूवी टू मूवी, क्योंकि स्टोरीज श्रिंक हो गई हैं, क्योंकि चीजें बहुत जल्दी हो रही हैं. So let's now hear it from all of you rather than me telling everything or every part of the story. What do you think? How is education going to innovate itself, and how are you going to innovate education in the coming times? So now I would request and invite the first speaker for today, who will bring in the experience of organizing and managing a chain of schools, और वो भी एक ऐसी चेन ऑफ स्कूल्स जिसका एक फाउंडर इंडियन है, बट नाउ ही हैज मेड अ नेम ग्लोबली एंड इंडियन ओरिजिन मैं कह सकता हूं. अब इंडियन है या नहीं, मुझे उसकी जीके पूरी नहीं है, बट यस, ही इज समबडी हु हैज मेड इंडिया प्राउड इन द एरिना ऑफ ग्लोबल एजुकेशन. और शायद एज फार एज आई नो दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टीचर्स का एप्रिसिएशन या अवार्ड उन्हीं की एक संस्था चलाती है, which is वार्की फाउंडेशन. So a very warm welcome to the first speaker for today, Dr. Amrita Vora, Director Education for GEMS India and Executive Principal at GEMS International School from Gurgaon, Haryana. So we would like to know from ma'am कि आज से 5 साल बाद ये एजुकेशन की दुनिया कहाँ जाने वाली है, उन्होंने इस पूरे लॉकडाउन में कैसे एजुकेशन को इनोवेट किया, and what does she think would be the future of schools. So a very warm welcome, Amrita ji. Over to you for the next 4 minutes. Please unmute your audio, and I hope you enjoy your time and we get to know a lot from you. A very warm welcome.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, you introduced Mr. Varki quite right. He is an Indian, and GEMS is an Indian organization, and we are all very proud of the fact, and we should all be very proud of the fact that today it is the largest in the K-12 space across the globe, and the largest employer of Indian and British teachers across the globe. Also, Global Teacher Prize is an entity of GEMS, and this year, in fact, amongst the top 10 finalists, one of the Indian teachers is also counted. Many of you may have already read about it, even the last year. So that is there. Now, coming back to your question very quickly in the interest of time, I'll just say one thing. Yes, every such pandemic is a disruption, and disruptions have both positive as well as negative effects, which this one does too. And we have all seen a lot of emotional chaos all around us, and it's important to deal with. The one thing that I think most of my fellow educators firmly believe in: you can't take away the teacher out of the system, no matter what happens. The teacher is still pivotal and the most important. We have seen the benefits and phenomenal benefits of online education. In fact, this is the first time when the idea of education has transcended the concepts of distance or space and time. So we've really moved beyond that. But which means that we've managed to have, so in some of our schools, in fact, we're doing a lot of virtual global exchange programs. So children now every day are interacting with children from other schools from different parts of the world, and it's not costing anything. So everybody is able to participate in things like these, and that's more than needed when we have a scenario where I would disagree that we can do away with face-to-face school. We have a scenario that makes it all the more important to have that sense of empathy. Our children today are living in a world of instant gratification. All of us are. What they need to develop consciously is resilience. They don't have it. If we ask for something from our parents, we had to wait to get it. That is gone. So that is really needed. That emotional intelligence and resilience is much needed. We are no longer in a system. We cannot persist in an education system created for mass instruction by the Industrial Revolution. We are way beyond it. Now we are living in not just a sea of information, but a paradox. We are living in a scenario which is disinformation age. Your news is different, my news is different. AI ensures that whatever you want to see, you see, and whatever I want to see, I get to see that. So it's highly polarized. And more than ever, when even news is not telling us facts, and there is no one truth anyway, there never was, it's more than ever needed for children to be able to see the wider, larger perspective and think creatively and critically. They need to be specifically taught for this. Our assessment procedures have to change from that, the very didactic approach that they had, authoritative approach where the teachers go to decide things, and it's a two-way setup. It's a two-way engagement. Collaboration is the key, and therefore even our National Education Policy 2020 talks about a 360-degree report card, which in our schools we've actually been implementing for quite a few years now. We are in that zone of liquid modernity. The new generation is discerning. They are smart.
Thank you so much, Amrita ji, for an amazing start. ये पहले 4 मिनट थे हम, लेकिन एक बार वापस आपके पास जरूर आएंगे during the whole interaction. But to summarize what you said, क्योंकि आपने इस interaction को बड़ा ही interesting सा और अच्छा सा एक start दे दिया, क्योंकि उसके 4-5 aspects थे जिसको आपने समझा दिया और एक साथ अपनी आप talk में लेके आ गई. You started with disruption, जिसमें इमोशनल केओस, और एक चीज जिसको स्कूल्स ने दुनिया भर में गारंटी किया ड्यूरिंग दिस होल पेंडेमिक वाज दैट कि आपने हर घर की एंजाइटी को कंटेन रखा. नहीं तो घर में पेरेंट्स और बच्चे शायद पगला जाते, लेकिन वो पागलपना इसलिए कंटेन हो गया क्योंकि एजुकेशन ने उन्हें एक बहुत मीनिंगफुल और एक बहुत ज्यादा फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग एंगेजमेंट दिया ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम व्हेन दे कुड नॉट एक्चुअली इंटरैक्ट. देन यू टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट टीचर इज indispensable. इस पूरे मॉडल के अंदर वो बहुत ज्यादा पिवटल है, एंड एब्सोल्युटली ऐसा जरूर है, बिकॉज टिल यू आर इन स्कूल, या स्कूल की जो उम्र होती है जहां तक हम पढ़ा रहे होते हैं, वहां तक बच्चा एक्टिव लर्नर बनने की जर्नी में होता है. वो बना होता नहीं है. वो अपने स्कूल खत्म करने के साथ एक एक्टिव लर्नर बनता है. तब तक वो एक पैसिव लर्नर का रोल ही निभा रहा होता है, और जब तक वो अपने टीन्स में घुस रहा होता है, that is the point when he tries to transform or transcend his life that's going all around him. फिजिक्स ऑफ एजुकेशन हैज चेंज्ड. डिस्टेंस टाइम अब एक फैक्टर नहीं रह गया, कंटेंट अब बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर नहीं रह गया. बट व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ कंटेंट, उस समय पे साथ में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज आ गई कि अब इंफॉर्मेशन, कंटेंट, न्यूज और इन सारी शब्दों की शब्दावली और इनके वर्ड मीनिंग्स और इनकी वोकैबुलरी बहुत ड्रास्टिकली चेंज हो गई. एंड हमने एक ऑक्सीमोरॉन का इस्तेमाल बहुत जबरदस्त तरीके से यूज करना शुरू कर दिया, जो कि हमारी इंडस्ट्री में बहुत अच्छे से समझा हुआ है. वेयर आई कम फ्रॉम द मीडिया इंडस्ट्री. एंड यहाँ पे a simple word, fake news, is an oxymoron, because if it's fake it cannot be news, if it's news it cannot be fake. But problem ये है कि उस word की credibility ही खत्म हो गई. अब news कुछ है ही नहीं, अब केवल entertainment या drama है. और when we talk of India, तो यहाँ तो ऐसा भी हुआ है कि कुछ जो न्यूज चैनल्स हैं, दे आर रजिस्टर्ड एज GECs, जनरल एंटरटेनमेंट चैनल्स, जो कि बहुत बड़ा अपने आप में एक पैराडॉक्स है या विडंबना है जो कि लोग फेस कर रहे हैं. और हम लोग उस कंटेंट को रोजाना कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं. बच्चों में इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस चाहिए, हमारे में भी शायद थोड़ी सी रेजिलियंस चाहिए, बिकॉज सिंगल करियर लाइफ अभी से ऑब्लिटरेट हो चुकी हैं. हम लोग अपने करियर्स को ही सस्टेन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, उन्हें ही हम सॉलिड नहीं रख पा रहे हैं. तो अगली जनरेशन के लिए तो चैलेंज और बड़ा हो जाएगा और ड्रामेटिक हो जाएगा. AI guarantees polarization. AI हमसे ज्यादा समझदार हो गई. मशीन की लर्निंग एक आदमी की लर्निंग से तेज है. So अब आप जब पढ़ाएंगे, you need to very well understand that whatever tech can do, don't teach it. And what tech cannot do, teach that. So you just got a new barometer to judge what you teach. And at the same time, आप पढ़ा तो सकते ही नहीं. The process of teaching or being didactic is no more of any use, because when you are in a virtual classroom, आपको ये तो पता ही नहीं है कि कौन फ्रंट बेंचर है और कौन बैक बेंचर, बिकॉज यहाँ टीचिंग तो गारंटीड है, बट लर्निंग इज समथिंग वेयर द क्वेश्चन मार्क हैज एक्चुअली कम अप, बिकॉज वी डोंट नो वेदर दैट्स हैपनिंग और नॉट, बिकॉज द फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म हैज क्रम्बल्ड डाउन. ये काफी सारी नेगेटिव बातें हो गई, बट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि नेगेटिविटी आएगी तो ही शायद उसमें से कोई लूप होल्स निकाल के हम पॉजिटिविटी को जगह दे देंगे. सो थैंक यू सो मच अमृता जी फॉर एन अमेजिंग स्टार्ट टू द डिस्कशन. लेट मी नाउ इनवाइट द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर. एंड बिफोर आई इनवाइट देम, हम लोग हर टॉक में कोशिश करते हैं कि मैक्सिमम ज्योग्राफिकल वैरायटी, एक्सपीरियंशियल वैरायटी और लोगों की लाइफ्स अलग अलग हों जो इस कॉल पर आ रहे हों और उनके चैलेंजेस अलग अलग हों. So today we have with us somebody who will give us an external view of the whole education sector, or typically the K-12 sector. She'll be talking us from the higher education perspective, और शायद उनकी expectations स्कूल से कैसे बदलेंगी, क्योंकि उनसे employers की expectations बदल चुकी हैं और जिससे उन्हें पेस अप करना बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है. So let me now invite Miss Meenu Arora, Assistant Director Outreach for Kriya University from Sri City, Andhra Pradesh. Meenu ma'am, over to you for the next 4 minutes and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. आपने 4 minutes देख के बहुत नाइंसाफी की है, because I'm trying to see that, you know, from where I can start. And I would like to say one thing, that I have worked in the school sector for 25 years as a counseling psychologist. And I have moved to higher education now for the past 6 months. So I have tasted both the sectors. And keeping that in mind, I will like to say that when you talk about innovation, because I missed your initial introduction because my net was not working. So, you know, when we talk about innovation in today's time, one thing I think all of us need to understand, including students, higher ed, you know, school education, everybody, that please don't wait for the normal. This is the normal now, you know, because whatever sessions I attend, we are always discussing that how to deal with new normal. Now it is not new, it's 6 months old and it's going to be like this forever. And when we talk about innovation, you know, people always think innovation means AI, you know, you have to use some kind of visual thing, technology. Of course, AI and technology are to be there. But, you know, today when we are talking about Industry 4.0 sitting here and about 21st century, employers have already started talking about Industry 5.0, which is more about humanizing technology. You know, if artificial intelligence behaves like human beings, you know, now I hear about the systems who can work as therapists. There are chatbots, you know, who are working as cognitive therapists. I can understand, you know, they are intelligent enough and they will do whatever we have fed in. But we as human beings cannot work like machines. Okay. And as you correctly said, you know, emotional intelligence. So as far as education is concerned, a lot of innovation is required in that. And innovation doesn't mean new technology. It just means change of perspective. We need to change our perspectives towards education, you know, and education is not only for making a career, it's about life. You know, career is also life. Career is not a job. These are two different things. So first, we as educators, we need to understand that even the role of teacher is changing nowadays. Many conventional careers will be there, but their face value will change. The teacher has to act more as a mentor. If you enter the school, I'm telling you from the school perspective, my students used to say, ma'am, this thing we can read in book also. Tell us something different. Okay. So today we need to move towards how to learn, from what to learn to how to learn. So today we have to tell our students that they need to be self-directed learners. Self-learning is very, very important. And as you were also saying that, it is becoming hard to sustain your own career also, that yes, we need to understand that we are moving towards gig economy. Every student nowadays, who will be ready for the world of work, as you said, I'm trying to connect the education and the employability. So every student will be undergoing a change in the career. I'm not talking about change in job. That is for sure all of us do. But I'm about change in career. So it's not that you enter a particular job or a career and you get retired from that particular thing. I started as a counseling psychologist, taught psychology, worked in career counseling, personal counseling, and today I'm in the higher ed. So it is education only, but it is a shift. So one has to have the cognitive flexibility for future. And yes, if I try to see that how we can bridge this gap between the higher ed and the employability, there are two things which I would like to emphasize here. That higher ed needs to take up this responsibility. And yes, I represent Girija University here, and I can proudly say that Girija University is taking care of that. If I have time, I will talk about it. And higher ed has to go in line with the school education. Higher ed has to take that kind of responsibility, social responsibility, to upgrade the school education also. And I'm not waiting for, the on-campus teaching. It may go on like this only. We just need to make it little different. And as Amrita ji rightly said, you cannot take away teachers. The only thing is the role of the...
Thank you so much, Meenu ma'am. Pehle 4 minutes khatm ho gaye, but we'll again come back to you. To summarize what you said, that don't wait for the normal. ये normal हो गया है, this is what it is, and that's the way the life's going to be in the coming times. और अभी भी ऐसी ही है. जहां पे दुनिया इंडस्ट्री 4.0 की बात कर रही है, इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन 4.0 की बात कर रही है, एम्प्लॉयर्स 5.0 की तैयारी कर रहे हैं, हम एक नॉलेज इकोनॉमी में आ गए हैं और हम गिग इकोनॉमी की बात कर रहे हैं. The sustainability, the security, the safety of a career now no more are a factor in judging your career, क्योंकि everything is unsafe. Because lockdown के पहले every employee trusted his or her employer कि when there'll be a bad time in my life, there'll be somebody to support me. But इस स्पेस में, या रादर एजुकेशन स्पेस में, सबसे ड्रास्टिक यही हुआ कि जब वो खराब टाइम आया तो उस मालिक ने भी हाथ खड़े कर दिए. एंड अक्रॉस इंडिया अभी इस समय पर करीबन 65% लर्नर्स की पॉपुलेशन है. नियरली 65% ऑफ द लर्नर पॉपुलेशन इन इंडिया हैज नॉट बीन एक्सेसिंग एनी फॉर्म ऑफ एजुकेशन सिंस द लॉकडाउन बिगैन. और वो चीज अभी तक नॉर्मलाइज नहीं हुई है. 55,000 विलेजेस ऐसी हैं जहां पे नेटवर्क एक्सेस नहीं है, इंटरनेट नहीं, नेटवर्क एक्सेस नहीं है. वो एक एब्सोल्यूट ब्लैकआउट में जी रहे हैं. फॉर अ कंट्री लाइक इंडिया, वी वर ट्राइंग टू बिल्ड द मॉडर्न एजुकेशन सिस्टम, जहां पर उसका एपिसेंटर एक मिड डे मील था जो वर्चुअली खिलाया नहीं जा सकता. बट एट द सेम टाइम इनोवेशन कम्स ओनली आउट ऑफ दीज, एंड हर लेवल पर इनोवेशन हुआ और इतना अमेजिंग तरीके से हुआ कि शायद कुछ सबसे अच्छे स्कूलों ने अपनी वर्चुअल क्लासेस सबके लिए खोल दी. कंटेंट लिबरेट हुआ, इतना डेमोक्रेटिक हुआ एजुकेशन कि आज की तारीख में लोग रिसोर्सेस से, बैंडविड्थ से, कंटेंट से, टीचिंग से, हर तरीके से अपने हर रिसोर्स को बच्चों तक पहुंचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. वी हैव बिकम मच मोर एम्पैथेटिक. और हमने एक चीज को, जिसको सरकारें या लोग पॉलिसी से बहुत ताकत देने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, उसको लोगों ने ताकत दे दी, which was right to education. And this right we gave each other around us. और ऐसे बहुत सारी अच्छी चीजें अक्रॉस इंडिया नहीं दुनिया भर में हुई. And one such idea that came from one of the school leaders from Singapore is they started something called a teachers tea party, जहां रोजाना सुबह 7:30 बजे वो अपने सारे टीचर्स को इकट्ठा करते हैं एक चाय के कप के साथ, और पिछले दिन आई हुई किसी एक मेजर चैलेंज का सोल्यूशन देते हैं, so that they have a better day every day. वो रोज की एक सोशल या सोल्यूशन मीटिंग इतनी इफेक्टिव हुई कि now they have a repository of operational प्रॉब्लम्स एंड देयर सॉल्यूशंस जो आज वो इतने सारे स्कूल्स के साथ और शेयर कर रहे हैं। आपने जो बातें करी, करियर बीइंग मच मोर देन जस्ट अ जॉब, गोइंग बियॉन्ड द बुक, कुछ ऐसा पढ़ाना जो शायद लाइफ में काम आ जाए और लाइफ से ही उसे उठाना, gig economy. Just today itself I was talking to one of the editors of a leading publication of India, to name that it was Dainik Bhaskar's editor that I was talking to in the very morning, and मेरे लिए सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज ये था उनको ये समझाना कि गिग इकोनॉमी होता क्या है, बिकॉज हमारे से जो पिछली जनरेशन है उसके लिए ये टर्मिनोलॉजी, उसकी इमेजिनेशन, उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग, उसकी वोकेबलरी सब तरह से बाहर है, और उसका इस चीज के साथ एडजस्ट करना बहुत मुश्किल है। बिकॉज व्हेन आई टॉक ऑफ द मीडिया इंडस्ट्री, वी आर बीइंग शट लेफ्ट राइट एंड सेंटर। यहाँ रेवेन्यूज खत्म हो रहे हैं, बहुत मेजर ड्रास्टिक चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, और कुछ बहुत ज्यादा अमेजिंग दिख नहीं रहा है। बट फॉर द एजुकेशन सेक्टर इट्स अमेजिंग। आज सुबह का इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स की रिपोर्ट वेयर दे कोट PwC, दे आर सेइंग कि आने वाले समय में मीडिया, एंटरटेनमेंट और एजुकेशन ये सबसे बड़े बिजनेसेस होने वाले हैं, बट दे विल बी पावर्ड डिजिटली या वाया टेक्नोलॉजी। जो पुराने या कन्वेंशनल फॉर्म्स हैं वो शायद अपनी जिंदगी अब आगे न देख पाए। तो एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर जिस पे मीनू जी ने अपनी बात को कंक्लूड किया, कॉग्निटिव फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी। हमें तैयार होना होगा हर क्राइसिस के लिए, और अडेप्टेबल और फ्लेक्सिबल होना पड़ेगा। बिकॉज अभी एजुकेशन सेक्टर ने जो टेक्नोलॉजी यूज की या इंप्लीमेंट करी, वो उसकी अडेप्टेबिलिटी नहीं थी, उसकी मजबूरी थी। तो उस मजबूरी को अडेप्टेबिलिटी तक जाने में एक बहुत मेजर साइकोलॉजिकल शिफ्ट चाहिए, एंड दैट इज व्हाट we are waiting for, or we are trying to understand from these many school leaders from across the world, ki are we really that adaptable, या we are only majboor? We need to understand that as individuals, क्योंकि जब बड़े तैयार होंगे तब तो अगली जनरेशन शायद आपको देख के सीख जाए, क्योंकि सुन के तो सीखेगी नहीं। That's for sure. So let me now invite the real practitioners जो हर दिन हर सुबह वो लड़ाई कर रहे हैं वर्चुअल क्लासेस की, जिन्होंने जब वो क्लासेस शुरू करी थी तो 70-80% की अटेंडेंस हुआ करती थी, एंड नाउ द सैड रियलिटी इज दैट पॉपुलेशन और दैट attendance in a typical virtual class has come down to 20 to 25% across India, बहुत सारे schools में. So let me now invite the first school leader for today, who will be sharing his experience on how was the lockdown for him and what does he see in the coming times, that how would education evolve. Mr. Arockia Jerald Abraham, the principal, Matha Kontapalli Model School from Hosur, Tamil Nadu. I might have mispronounced it. If I have, please correct me. I'm sorry, but a very warm welcome to you to the Blub World Web Talks.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to everybody who is present here. So it's a great opportunity for me to come and talk in this Blub World Web Talk. This is the first time I'm coming over here and listening to great people like Dr. Amrita and Meenu ma'am. And you guys have covered most of the points that I had actually prepared to talk. But to introduce myself, my name is Arockia Jerald Abraham, and my school's name is Matha Kontapalli Model School. So it's a 20-year-old school located in Tamil Nadu. So we are absolutely we call ourselves as a model school because we would like to develop a lot of educational models in school education, and we are closely associated with CBSE, where we update our models timely basis, and then we do a lot of innovations, and it's the right topic for me to talk about educational innovation, and this is the right time for us to discuss about these things. So innovation, according to me, innovation actually begins from simple things, small things, and somebody need not sit and put your mind together and think about what kind of innovation needs to be brought in. But if it is very simple, it comes out on the go. Like when we started this year, we were clueless. What is going to happen? What kind of response are we going to get from students? What kind of response are we going to get from parents and teachers? Everything was a question. And as Dr. Amrita rightly said, teachers cannot be replaced. But the question is, what kind of teachers we have? What kind of teachers our system, develops? That is what is the biggest question here. So are they ready for change? So this is a great lesson that we learned during this pandemic, that as educators, we need to be ready for any kind of change that might come across. And innovation is nothing new, but it's not a new invention, but it is a new way of doing the same thing. That is what it is. So now we are actually doing it in our online classes. Already we are seeing some excited classrooms in virtual classrooms that we have. Our teachers are making it very interesting for children. They try to use as many applications as possible. And what matters is the freedom that we give to teachers. The innovation that they bring in the classrooms. That is what really matters a lot for children. And this is going to be a shift from mark-oriented education to skill-based or competency-based education. That is what is very, very important. Now, the self-learning responsibility is coming in for children, because the reduced class hours and less interaction with teachers or limited interaction with teachers, all these things bringing in a shift of teachers' responsibility to self-learning responsibility to children, which means there is also a parental education involved. As teachers, our role is being extended now. So we are not going to be limited to our classrooms. We need to discuss with children. We need to discuss with parents.
Thank you so much, Jerald, sir. Time was over. To summarize what you said, you started with innovation with simplicity. या छोटी-छोटी चीजों में पहले changes लाएं, बड़ी चीजें अपने आप बदल जाती हैं. There was one school in Nepal. They started an activity with their children in the higher classes. They told them, they started a class called Problem Solving Engineering. कि रोजाना अपने किचन में घर के देखिए कि कौन सी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, give it an engineering solution. And वो solution ने बहुत सारे बच्चों ने बहुत innovative ideas इकट्ठे करके ऐसे प्रोडक्ट आइडियाज दिए जिन पे अभी वो एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज दैट्स वेयर लेटरल थिंकिंग, डिजाइन थिंकिंग, इंजीनियरिंग डिजाइन, एवरीथिंग कम्स इनटू प्ले. एंड वी आल्सो नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि अब एजुकेशन अब पीरियड्स में या साइलोज में नहीं पढ़ाई जा सकती. इट हैज टू ऑल कम टुगेदर. द पिक्चर हैज टू बी प्रेजेंटेड एज वन, जो कि एनईपी भी कह रहा है दैट लेट इट बी मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी. मल्टीपल एग्जिट्स दीजिए, एंट्री दीजिए, कंफर्ट दीजिए, फ्रीडम दीजिए, एंड एट द सेम टाइम लैंग्वेज के बैरियर से सबको आजाद कीजिए. क्योंकि if we talk of India, यहाँ पे सबसे बड़ा जो हम सबसे पहली स्किल जिंदगी में सीखते हैं वो शायद कॉन्सेप्ट्स को समझने की नहीं होती, उन्हें ट्रांसलेट करने की होती है. क्योंकि टीचर किसी भी भाषा में बोल रहा हो, हम उसे पहले अपनी मदर टंग में ट्रांसलेट करते हैं एंड फिर समझते हैं, बिकॉज दैट्स द वे आवर ब्रेन वर्क्स. एंड विद इन दिस प्रोसेस वी एज अ कंट्री बिकम वेरी एफिशिएंट इन ओनली ट्रांसलेशन. और इसीलिए व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ इनोवेशन अक्रॉस द ग्लोब, आप आज अपनी उंगलियों पे गिन सकते हैं that how many product companies come out of India. We are the sweatshop of the world when it comes to IT and technology. So we need to understand that finally going back to the roots of it, कि let innovation happen and not language put a bar to it. And इसी वजह से we try to keep this platform as well bilingual, trilingual, की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. trilingual हो नहीं पाए, लेकिन हाँ bilingual तो अभी तक है, क्योंकि भाषा कभी भी ज्ञान का पैमाना नहीं हो सकता. You cannot judge a person's intellect by just his language. Language is an aspect of intelligence, not everything about it. मार्क्स से कॉम्पिटेंसी की तरफ पूरा देश अभी हमारे यहाँ पे डिग्री की बीमारी है या सर्टिफिकेशन की बीमारी है, कैपेबिलिटी की है ही नहीं. कैपेबिलिटी हम कंसीडर ही नहीं करते, हम लोग सर्टिफिकेशन पे रुक जाते हैं. पेरेंटल एजुकेशन बिकमिंग वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. And as one of the speakers on this very platform who runs and operates one of the biggest schools in India said that education right now is typically teaching the whole society. आप आने वाले समय में, like COVID has its disease hotspots, schools will become the immunity hotspots. और वो immunity केवल COVID तक restrict नहीं होगी, वो उससे काफी आगे तक चली जाएगी. So thank you so much, Jerald sir, for your amazing thoughts and amazing contribution to the talk. Let me now invite the next school leader for today, Miss Girija R Bandaru, Principal, Fort City School, Viziangram, Andhra Pradesh. Girija ji, over to you for the next 4 minutes and a very warm welcome. Please unmute your audio.
Very good evening to all the dignitaries over here, and it's my pleasure being a part of all of you today and speaking. So I work as a principal of a school over Vizianagaram here in Andhra Pradesh, and I manage 2 schools, which is one under the state board and the other under the CBSE. So as many of you has discussed, Amrita ji and Meenu Arora madam, as you said, the innovation is always within the education, and education is a cumulative process where it starts and there is no ending with it. So as we all have discussed right now, as I say, I would like to introduce 5S formula for all my students coming into this pandemic learning, where we took up a new platform, that is tech support, where I can just say that technology will be just a support for the teaching, and technology itself can't survive without a teacher. So as I said, the 5S formula which I have introduced in my school is self-discipline, self-learning, self-motivation, self-supervision, and self-assessment even. As if this is my motto, which I have presented to all my parents as well as my students, to come up with this 5S formula, whereas they has to be self-discipline, whereas they need to come up to their online classes by their own, because there will not be a school bell which rings, and there will not be a teacher who could ask them why you were late. And we need to let the student enter to the classrooms though they are late for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because they come up with different reasons, saying that we have got a network issue, we have got a technical issue, my phone is out of charging. So we couldn't restrict them with the word discipline. So I introduced them to be self-disciplined. It is your duty to be self-disciplined. And here the self-learning, whereas the teacher is showing something, and as you said right now, we are not sure whether the learning is happening or not. So who could ensure about the learning is the student. He himself has to ensure his own learning. So here comes up the idea of self-learning. Be ensure about your own learning. Whereas self-motivation, here in the classroom, my friend is answering, whereas I need to answer for the next time. This kind of motivation is not available in the platforms of Zoom classrooms or Google Meet classrooms as of now. So here you need to self-motivate yourself to complete all the works given by the teachers, and you have to be up to the mark with all your academic works as well as co-curricular activities where we give. So to come up with an example, we have inducted interdisciplinary projects, whereas the connectivity of one topic to the other subjects has come up, and students are feeling very innovative and interactive to participate in this. So one topic will be selected, and depending on the topic, we connect it with all the subjects. This is one more initiative we have taken in our schools. And coming up with the supervision here, however, we ask the parents to supervise their learning and teaching modes. Parents are not very sure, because they're not completely aware of what has to be learned and what has to be done. So here I asked my students to go with.
Thank you so much, Girija ma'am. And आपकी एक जो strategy आपने implement करी, I think it's worth sharing with everybody. Self-discipline, self-motivation, self-assessment, self-learning. कि finally एक school की responsibility से बच्चे की responsibility that you have to learn. And active learner थोड़ा जल्दी बन जाए, teenage तक जाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़े. उसके पहले we have students who are ready to take on life with control being in their own hands. So this, I think, is the actual solution that we are looking for. कि जहाँ बच्चा पढ़ना शुरू कर दे, हमारा पढ़ाना बंद हो जाए. Because teaching is something that has to be done, that needs a lot of effort, but learning has to happen. उसे होने देना पड़ेगा. It has to finally happen on its own. So now, before I invite the next speaker, Blub World Web Talks के पहले 100 episodes में हमने किसी भी school leader को कभी repeat नहीं किया platform पे, and we had unique 1500 school leaders who participated in different talks. 100th एपिसोड के बाद में हमने उन स्कूल लीडर्स को या उन एजुकेशनिस्ट को वापस एक एक करके बुलाना शुरू किया जो हमसे थोड़े से डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए थे या जिनसे हमने बहुत टाइम से बात नहीं करी थी. सो वी हैव वन सच स्पीकर टुडे विद अस जो पहले एक वेब टॉक अटेंड कर चुके हैं. सो लेट्स नाउ हियर हिज एक्सपीरियंस ऑन हाउ डज ही थिंक एजुकेशन इज गोइंग टू इनोवेट. A very warm welcome, Mr. Radhakrishnan C, Director, Academic Strategy, Center for Education Initiatives and Research from Kannur, Kerala. Radhakrishnan ji, over to you for the next 4 minutes and a very warm welcome.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone. It's so nice to be part of this discussion. As Daksh told, I was part of this discussion once, and this is the second time. Thank you so much for that. And when we discuss about this education, innovation and all, what I feel is the meaning of education itself is changing now. That word meaning itself is changing. Because till now, when we hear about schools or colleges or education, it is just transfer of knowledge. Mainly, converting knowledge to wisdom takes place very less. Now what is happening is the role of the teacher, not only the role of the teacher, the role of the school leaders, college leaders, the role of the policymakers, everyone is going to change. Because education is changing from transferring knowledge to skill education or converting it into wisdom. So what happens? There should be a lot of collaboration, and this collaboration, till now we were practicing face-to-face collaboration or one-to-one collaboration. Now, as we are sitting here, we should be, our teachers, principals, and everyone should be experts in online or virtual collaboration. It is not only within a district or state or the country, across the world. And for that, a lot of technology are also available. Now, how the schools going to change? Now, I told you the paradigm shift in education. Now, how it's going to affect the teaching aids we use. As the earlier speakers were telling, yes, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural linguistic learning, everything is machine learning, everything is going to come and transform us. And when 5G comes, our classrooms are drastically going to change. Because whatever VR, AR, and all we are speaking, all these will come to the aid of the teachers. Because when 5G comes, even the investment of the schools will come down. You may ask how. Because when online transfer takes place, data transfer takes place for VR and AR, there is no need of servers in the schools. It comes directly online into the classroom. So how the class will be after 5 or 10 years, like Daksh was asking, we can't even imagine. Because virtual reality is going to help the children understand the things. Now, when all these changes happens, what happens to parents? It is our duty. We have to educate the parents well. Otherwise, the mindset problem will start. That is another major issue schools and colleges have to take because we have to educate our parents for a mindset change. Then, when we are talking about curriculum, and skill education. When we hear about skill education, immediately to our mind comes coding or something like that, a white collar. But what about, we have an ever-growing population, who is going to feed? So agriculture also should become part of skill education, and also many other technical skills like plumbing, electrical work, all these should come to school level. Otherwise, it is not going to help us. We speak about dignity of labor. Just by reading the textbook or imparting some information, dignity of labor won't come. Let them practice such type of works, even menial works, whatever we see. Right from the school days, schools have to take initiative for that in the coming days. So what I'm thinking is school education or college education is going to change drastically. And if we are not changing, I am emphasizing,
Radhakrishnan, the time was over. To summarize what you said, education from being just a transfer of knowledge to conversion of it to wisdom. हमें knowledge के actual word meaning जाना होगा, which simply means knowing your ledge, understanding where you are standing, कि अपनी ledge को समझना या एक wisdom आप में होना ताकि आप judgment कर सकें, decision making कर सकें. But education या कंटेंट को एजुकेशन में ट्रांसफॉर्म करना, एजुकेशन को विजडम में ट्रांसफॉर्म करना, ये अपने आप में एक थोड़ी लंबी जर्नी है जो स्कूल के अंदर बहुत बार कंप्लीट नहीं हो पाती, बिकॉज वी रादर एंगेज, और एचआर में अगर हम बात करें तो वी आर एंगेजिंग द बॉटम ऑफ द पिरामिड. वी डू नॉट हैव द टॉप ऑफ द पिरामिड कमिंग टू अस बिकॉज एजुकेशन और टीचिंग एज अ प्रोफेशन डज नॉट हैव दैट काइंड ऑफ एन एस्पिरेशन. बट वो एस्पिरेशन की अब और ज्यादा जरूरत होगी, एंड आई थिंक दैट विल ऑटोमेटिकली हैपन because now people understand that it's not about books and it's not about numbers. It's finally about what kind of a life you create for yourself. And वो होने के लिए बहुत सारे अलग-अलग तरीके का ज्ञान हमें चाहिएगा. With 5G internet coming, will transform classes. This is something that comes as a vision and as a risk at the same time, because when so much of technology enters, just a small little observation that comes from us, जब हम इतने स्कूल लीडर से बात कर चुके, तो एक बात जो हम ऑब्जर्व कर पा रहे हैं, which is just a word of caution, that as of now, most of the technology that's being implemented in the education space, the decision makers for that are people of your age, or rather thodi si aur advanced age, ya mujhse bhi rather bade. And the biggest challenge is they are not tech savvy. So the decision maker is not aware of the aspects of technology, because when you buy a technology, you don't buy a product. You buy an experience, and that experience stays with you. And the polarization does not come in religions or communities. It comes in the Microsofts and the Googles of the world. Which side are you on? Because the world gets divided in these manners right now. और ये decision making हमारी थोड़ी नहीं बहुत ज़्यादा कमजोर है. And एक aspect जिस पे आपने finally बात करी, making the ecosystem ready. हम सब कुछ कर देंगे, बड़ा इंफ्रा भी ले आएंगे, टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज भी ले आएंगे, लेकिन पेरेंट की एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी, बच्चों की एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी, बिकॉज व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ टियर 2 एंड टियर 3 सिटीज, इन्हीं प्लेटफॉर्म से जो हमने बात करी है, बच्चों को या पेरेंट्स को ऑनलाइन लाना बहुत बड़ा झगड़ा था बहुत सारे स्कूल्स के लिए, जो उन्हें बहुत दिनों तक लड़ना पड़ा. टियर 1 में तो पेरेंट समझदार था, या वो ये चाहता था कि कुछ हो जाए. टियर 2 टियर 3 में ऐसा नहीं हो पाया, क्योंकि घरों में एक डिवाइस था जिस पे भी खराब सा इंटरनेट था, तो उसके ऊपर एक्सेस करना ही बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज था. So let me now invite the last school leader for today for sharing her thoughts with us, Miss Dipika Nagarwalla, Vice Principal, the Icon Public School from Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. Dipika ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. And I must say that you're doing a commendable job. My perspective of this whole situation of the pandemic is a little different from metropolitan, cosmopolitan cities like Mumbai, etc., because we are a school that's based in Ahmednagar in Maharashtra, which is a tier 2 city. And as you just noticed, you must have observed, I had technical issues. So these are basic hitches that we experienced when the lockdown took place and we had to move to virtual classes. However, what I would like to put across here is that we as a school have seen this as a huge, huge opportunity. And though it may sound a little cliched, but our teachers are basically housewives. Whatever said and done, you will see there is a difference between teachers from cosmopolitan cities and cities which are more in the tier 2. So therefore, what has happened is, initially we had teachers who were housewives and who were coming to teach in schools as a job. But eventually, when the lockdown took place and we were faced with this situation, there was one thing that was very, very clearly told to them, which was perform or perish. Now, perform or perish is, I wouldn't say, is something that has kept them going. Yes, initially that is what got them going, got them started. But the way they got into learning technology and the way they had this hunger of learning new applications, learning technology, learning various platforms, in being able to deliver to the students in such a manner that they would remain engaged all throughout. So it was like a magic wand, because the teachers themselves, as of today, if I ever speak to them or have a conversation, they say we don't ever want to go back, because they have learned so much. They have been pushed beyond their threshold to such an extent that they feel good about themselves. So now they look at themselves with that dignity of being professionals, being educators, and not just housewives. So I think that has become a major, major shift for educators, for teachers as such. The second mind shift I think that has taken place is as far as students is concerned. Now, when you talk about flip learning, it's such a beautiful concept, and we've been trying to incorporate this for ages, for years together. Had it not been for the pandemic, I don't think it would have ever happened. So flip learning is something which makes the students accountable. So there is no chasing the students, there's no getting after the students, homework karo, padhai karo. All the responsibility and accountability lies with the student. As well as parents, I would say the kind of mind shift that has taken place as far as parents is concerned is tremendous. Because initially, it was for them, it was the child is going to school, spending 8 hours.
Thank you so much, Deepika ji. आपने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से एक बहुत मेजर रिस्क को इंसेंटिवाइज कर दिया कि परफॉर्म और पेरिश, और टीचर्स ने उस रिस्क के या उस इंसेंटिव के भरोसे ही किसी भी तरीके से सीखना शुरू कर दिया, वो आपने बहुत एक पॉजिटिव चेंज है जो एक बहुत नेगेटिव चीज से आया, but this is something commendable because most of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities are still struggling because teachers को salaries नहीं जा पा रही हैं, schools में fees नहीं आ रही है, as a model breakdown हो गया है dramatic वाला, और वो वापस जगह पे आता हुआ भी नहीं दिख रहा है in the coming times. And India में the way it is, मुझे ये कहना नहीं चाहिए that education is a business, but क्या करें, it is a business in India which is absolutely regulated, और इससे ज्यादा regulated business नहीं है इंडिया में. ये इकलौता बिजनेस है जहां आप रेवेन्यू एंड से रेगुलेट होते हैं और एक्सपेंडिचर एंड तक रेगुलेट किए जाते हैं, और कहीं बीच में आपके पास जगह नहीं होती कि आप खुद कुछ कर लें. एंड द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज कि व्हेन यू आर रेगुलेटेड, नॉट अ चैलेंज, द रेगुलेशन in itself or education being a concurrent subject in the constitution, the center has an opinion, the state has an opinion, your district has an opinion, and finally the letter that comes to you has a different opinion altogether जो आपके पास execution के लिए आती है. So when we talk of the NEP नए changes, the biggest challenge that we face is the education elephant in India does not move so easily and things get stuck. One of the vice chancellors on this very platform shared a nice observation कि अभी आप ऐसे समझ लीजिए कि मैं एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे शताब्दी का इंतजार कर रहा था, वो कैंसिल हो गई तो मैं प्लेटफॉर्म पे बैठा हूं, और पीछे अगर दुरंतो आ गई तो मैं उसमें चढ़ जाऊंगा. अभी टेक्नोलॉजी है, लेट इट ऑल एंड एंड विल गो बैक टू दैट सिंपल ट्रेन दैट्स स्टैंडिंग देयर ऑन द अदर एंड ऑफ द प्लेटफॉर्म. शायद ये चीजें रुके ना, स्टिक ना करें, बट वन थिंग दैट वी नो फॉर श्योर, ऑपरेशंस, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव टास्क्स, ये अब हमेशा हमेशा के लिए ऑटोमेट हो गई, बिकॉज एटलीस्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अब वापस ऑन ग्राउंड नहीं जा रहा, क्योंकि हम उतने कागज पन्ने वापस इस्तेमाल नहीं करना चाहते, एंड टेक्नोलॉजी ने उसको बहुत सॉर्ट कर दिया. सो बिफोर दिस, अभी हमने सारे स्पीकर्स को सुन लिया, एंड बिफोर दिस कॉल कम्स टू एन एंड, द नेक्स्ट 3 to 4 minutes इज एन ओपन फ्लोर. अगर आप म्यूट कर दिए गए थे, आपका कोई पॉइंट मिस हो गया, कुछ आप नहीं बोल पाए, तो आप अभी आपको, सो एनीबडी वांट्स टू स्पीक नेक्स्ट, जस्ट पुट योर हैंड अप एंड आई विल टेक योर नेम एंड इट्स ओवर टू यू. हाँ, अमृता जी प्लीज.
Yeah, so thanks, Daksh, and thanks everybody. I think what is the key word out of a lot of the things that have come out in this discussion is balance. So I want to really clarify some ideas that have come out. One, feedback is not out. Feedback is at the center. And as so many of us have said, self-directed learning is at the center like never before. We all always wanted it, right? We always talked about student-centered education and student-centered learning in the classrooms, and that is what it is. But at the same time, I think a lot of all this can be managed well, and there is so much, it's just about exploring. We are in a state of liquid modernity, as I was reading somewhere. This term is not my own. And yes, everybody needs to adapt. The people who adapt fastest is always children. And all of us adults are going to take longer. Maybe the educators comparatively less, because we are literally, हमको तो पानी में फेंक दिया तैरना ही है, right? Parents will take a little longer because उनको लग रहा है अगर जहाँ फीस बच सकती है, अभी इकोनॉमी का भी बहुत बुरा हाल है, and everybody is going through a challenge. It's a tough time essentially. So everybody is trying to find ways जहाँ से जो हो सकता है, but it's still a liquid modernity. It will take time. We've all seen the benefits as well, which is not going to go away. So what will be very soon is a hybrid model, and we are already training our teachers for all of that. And I don't like the word training. We call it professional development. And the beautiful thing that happened is when we use joint practice development, all our teachers every week were hosting sessions. So 2 kinds of sessions. One, they were hosting sessions for each other where they were sharing what new they learned and what more can be done. The other was gossip meetings. We call this gossip meetings, where no work, only enjoy yourself for 1 hour with each other, just like you would do in a regular classroom. And care calls to every house or virtual home visits, where a child could share, a parent could share, and a teacher could share. This is important, and everybody is missing each other like crazy. The minute children are in school, जो कि अब हमारे 10th and 12th and so on are going to be there for some time now, the state is allowed. But it's going to be tough. We are sharing things like codes of conduct and whatnot to ensure कि बच्चे जैसे ही मिले तो झप्पियां ना डालें, वो social distancing actually maintained रहे, and so on. So lots and lots of all that. But you can't, can you imagine कि जब एक preschool का बच्चा वापस स्कूल आएगा तो अपनी टीचर को देख के दौड़ेगा नहीं, ये नहीं होगा, right? So a lot of this, and at the same time, can you really take away the whole thing of the child really going to a school and a different world? Early childhood education has a very big role to play, and I think that has suffered the maximum during this whole pandemic. That is something that we all need to rethink the maximum, and of course parents, every stakeholder, the entire community has to be a part of any change, has to adapt, and slowly and steadily it will happen, but balance is the key word here.
Meenuji wants to speak. Meenuji, over to you.
Yeah, I would just like to take it forward where Amrita has emphasized, that how emotional support is equally important, and how human beings are going to act like human beings, once this thing becomes normal. And I totally agree that a balance is required. And I think that is where the purpose of education comes into picture, that as I said earlier, that education should not only prepare our kids, for the uncertain world which we are, talking about. Let's not scare them that, life is going to become very challenging, but equip them, with skills that it's okay, it is part of life. It's okay to fail, it's okay to succeed, it's okay to collaborate. Because coming from the higher ed now, I can see that, in school, we keep on saying that, compete, and then we say, okay, now compete with yourself, don't compete with others. And we say that, it is fine. But I now see that, we have to change this policy also. I always tell students that run a marathon, not a race. Don't just start running mechanically that I need to face that uncertain world. I need to, do the latest course, and, I need to be prepared with life. In marathon, you run with your own speed. Sometimes you walk also when you get tired. You collaborate with people, you wait for your friends, you have a glass of water, and all of you reach to the end point, but you are together. You're not alone. In race, when you reach the end point, you are alone. I think these are a few lessons which are very, very important for us. And after joining the higher ed, I feel that I have a lot of responsibility in that sense. And because I can empathize with the school sector, and Dr. Amrita ji, here I would like to say one thing when you were talking about the professional development. So as a part of Kriya University, I started with professional development program where our professors, they are training the teachers, although you said training word is not the correct one, but yes, we are doing professional development for school teachers where they are sharing that how Kriya is implementing, the innovation in education. Because we have 8 guiding principles, when we teach, we don't teach only degree. We say that, have skills also. So we talk about ethics, which is so important in today's world, because who is going to teach these kids? I feel sad that after doing their undergrad program, they keep looking for some training workshops, to learn these skills. I said, I feel no, it is the responsibility of the universities to teach those skills. Otherwise, who is going to prepare them? So ethics, historicities, that how you need to learn from the history. There are different, as I was saying, you just need to change your perspective. Like history is not about dates and the wars, and, pandemic will also become history one day. So you need to learn the lessons, not for how many years or how many months lockdown was there. That is not important. But what did you learn from there? How have you weave arts into sciences? That is becoming the need of the hour. Earlier as career counselors also, we used to tell them, okay, take a one subject and, study in depth. But now we have changed our perspectives also. We say that no, if you are an economist and you need to make some predictions, you cannot make prediction only by studying economics. You should know the psychology of people, whether they are wearing masks or not, because that is going to determine the spread of pandemic. You should know what kind of medical researches are going on, to come up with the vaccination. You should know about the government policies. You should know about the socio-cultural differences. Only then, as an economist, you will be able to predict. Even if I'm sitting at the higher ed and, all others are at the school education, we cannot work in silos, as somebody correctly said. Even subjects cannot be in silos. Even at Kriya, we don't have departments at all. we have divisions. So, we have to now teach each other. We have to collaborate as university and as the school, to help all of us, not only our students, but us also, because change is exponential. If we don't change internally, we are gone.
Absolutely.
I'll just add one thing here. It's a funny paradox. While Minuji moved from schools to higher ed, I moved from higher ed to schools. So, and the reasons may be, I don't know, maybe similar, because I moved when I realized that a child passing out from an MBA program or a mass comm and so on, at a master's level, after doing whatever competitive exams and getting into the best of colleges and whatever, was still asking me, notes दे दो, ये समझ तो आ गए लेकिन इसको मैं कैसे लिखूंगा, right? So there are lots, and there was a huge gap, and I'm talking lots of years ago, 10-15 years ago, but then still, and some of the best of colleges, but there's a huge gap that I sensed, and therefore I felt this is not something I can do at this stage with this kid. There is a limitation to what you can do and not do when they're already in college. There are certain skills that get built at school, and they need to be. There is an age for everything, right? The earlier we begin with the right thing, the better. So early, I mean, the child starts learning in the womb. So early childhood education is very key, and thankfully the whole world there is James Hackman's research and much more, and the whole world is now realizing it, and we in our NEP have also finally given it the right place. And then you move on and on. By the time the child is into university, these research skills and ideas of thinking and broader perspectives, and that should already be part of their life, because you can't, we've even moved beyond problem solving. We've moved to a stage where the child even needs to define the problem. What is the problem to be solved? To be able to think on those lines as well. And then, yes, you mentioned humane technologies. So if they're not humane, how will we? So we have to teach something like empathy. There is a big debate on whether you can actually teach empathy or not, but you can. Values are imbibed, and it is in the culture that we have to build it in. And yes, a lot is not possible virtually, but a lot more is possible virtually. As I said, student exchange programs are happening like never before. The kind of climate action projects and things children are doing these days, where they are interacting with cultures across the globe, and the kind of research they are bringing to the table and discussing, I am amazed. Children are really, and when I look at the videos that they present, the children are really, and teachers have moved from being teachers, sage on stage, to facilitators that we've been talking about for years now, to now co-learners. Even facilitators is an older term. We are all co-learners, and we need to learn way more than our children need to learn. That's an interesting paradox, but here we are.
Absolutely. ये एक ऐसी अंडरलाइंग विडंबना है जो एजुकेशन में हमेशा से थी और हमेशा रहेगी, कि आप अपने से पिछली जनरेशन से पढ़ते हैं और अपने से अगली को पढ़ाते हैं, तो 2 जनरेशन का गैप आप इंट्रिंसिकली लेके ही जाते हैं अपने पढ़ाने में हमेशा. And now since the time is coming to an end, but 2 लोगों ने हाथ उठा रखे हैं, so I would just request them कि अगले 60 सेकंड आप लोग ले लें, and एक मिनट में कोशिश करें आप conclude कर लें. So let me now invite first Radhakrishnan ji. Next 1 minute is yours, and then we'll move to Jerald sir.
Yeah. When we are talking about professional development, what are the areas we have to focus? Because everyone is talking about professional development. The one most important area is interdisciplinary learning, how interdisciplinary learning takes place. Because till now, we were into compartmentalized learning. So how teachers can be shifted to that. Another about art integration, how art integration takes place. And next, technology integration, how technology integration should be and how that should be done. Now, we have a problem. Now, most of the school leaders, they are not aware, as Daksh was telling, which technology is suitable. So in each and every school, there should be a technological head, or I call it a digital head. And that person should be taking decisions on that in discussion with the school heads. Then the collaboration, when we talk about collaboration, what I can tell is local collaboration is very important between schools, companies, and local craftsmen. even farmers. If such collaboration is not taking place, the NEP is not going to be, the new NEP is not going to be a successful one. And the last point I wanted to point out is our village children should not be neglected. Because from where the budget comes, now we are spending 4.6, now 7 more classes are added to compulsory education. And the budget allotment has increased to 6% only according to the NEP. So the number doubled, but the budget allotment not doubled. So how we will meet? It ultimately costs the village children. That should not happen. Corporate responsibility should come over there. That's all, Daksh. I don't want to take much time.
Thank you so much, Radhakrishnan जी. And yes, ये बात सच है कि बजट एलोकेशन नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा परसेंटेज इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं है. वो बहुत बड़ा एक आई वॉश खड़ा कर दिया है. उसके अंदर अगर आप पैसे की मूवमेंट की बात करेंगे, we at Blub World are initiating a series of talks where we will be inviting these policy makers from different states on different talks. And उस talk को हम लोग बात ही यही, उन 2 topics हैं जिन पे बात होगी, लेकिन final topic अभी बनेगा. The one portion of it is the politics of education, and the second part of it is the educated Indian. कि आप इन दोनों को define कैसे करते हैं और ये दोनों एक साथ आते कैसे. Over to Jerald sir for the next 1 minute.
Thank you. I just want to keep it short because I want to make a final comment. After listening to all of you, I only get these things. Like, we as educators need to be absolutely child-centric, and we need to empathize with children. As teachers, our roles are different now. As Dr. Amrita ma'am rightly said, we have become co-learners, and we in our school we call our teachers. We have been calling them as facilitators. Now we are calling them as enablers, which means they should be able enough to guide children and make them make their capacity enhanced. So that is what is the idea. So unless we become child-centric, unless we understand children properly, unless we empathize with them, I think our education will become meaningless. So that is what I wanted to give it as a concluding comment from my side after listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jerald. And yes, हमें बच्चे को finally वापस से एपिसेंटर में लाना होगा. And the whole system was meant for the child. और वो कब बड़ों के लिए बन गया ये समझ में ही नहीं आया. वो ट्रांजिशन एकदम से हुआ और सबने अपने कंफर्ट जोन को पकड़ने में बच्चे को भूल गए. And finally, अब वो जो जॉयस्टिक है या जो कंट्रोल है वो बच्चे के पास अब वापस चला गया, because अब आप उसे डिसिप्लिन तो कर नहीं सकते. We had a behavioral scientist on this very platform who shared that somebody who's trying to learn from looking at a screen like this has an attention span of only 8 seconds. हर 9th second पे वो आपको सुनना बंद कर चुका है, या तो वो कोई वीडियो देख रहा है या वो कुछ और देख रहा है. And most importantly, अगर आपको हर 8 सेकंड के बाद एंगेज करना है तो आपने एज अ टीचर सलमान खान ही होना पड़ेगा, अदरवाइज तो एंगेज होने से रहा. और आपने ये भी ध्यान रखना है कि आप एजुकेशन करते करते एंटरटेनर ना हो जाएं, क्योंकि वो भी एक बाउंड्री है जिसे मेंटेन रखना है. सो कुछ नई तरीके की चीजें हो रही हैं पूरी स्पेस में. हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि उनमें से बेस्ट आइडियाज को बहुत सारे लोगों के साथ शेयर कर सकें. इफ यू राइट नाउ गो ऑन टू द डिफरेंट सोशल मीडिया ऑफ ब्लब वर्ल्ड एंड यू गो थ्रू द मैगजीन, यू विल फाइंड सच आइडियाज. और ऐसे करीबन हम लोग 250 आइडियाज अभी तक शॉर्टलिस्ट कर चुके, जो करीबन देश भर के 1,500 से ज्यादा स्कूल्स अभी एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहे हैं अपने इकोसिस्टम्स के अंदर, कि वो फिजिबल है कि नहीं, स्केलेबल है कि नहीं. सो बिफोर दिस टॉक कम्स टू एन एंड दिस कॉल कम्स टू एन एंड, a very small observation for all of you जो शायद आपकी जिंदगी में काम आ सके. If you look at human history, ऐसा दुनिया में या समाज में या इतिहास में बहुत कम बार हुआ है when the community around you, the society around you is ready to listen. और ऐसा केवल तब होता है जब we as a community face an existential crisis. ऐसा अभी हो रहा है. So if you ever wanted to experiment or innovate, this is the perfect time to do it, क्योंकि आप जो नया करेंगे लोग उसे सुनेंगे. So do it right away and start building a habit of writing an observation paper every single evening. भले ही 200-250 words लिखिए, लेकिन रोजाना लिखिए, because this content that you create would become the knowledge bank that the world would need in the future. क्योंकि इसी से अगला innovation पैदा हो. So don't let this time go to waste, क्योंकि शायद अगली जनरेशन आपसे पूछ लें कि जब आपने कुछ नहीं करना था तब आप क्या कर रहे थे. So at least वो कागज लिख दीजिए कि शायद वो इतिहास बन जाए. And finally, to end this call, let's go back to the root of Blub World, or the simple motto. Teens inspiring teens. एक छोटी सी स्टोरी आप सबके लिए एक ऐसे ही टीनेजर की who right now lives in Melbourne, Australia, उसने अपनी जिंदगी का पहला पेंटिंग एग्जिबिट लगाया था जब वो 2 साल की थी. अपनी पहली प्रोफेशनल पेंटिंग करी थी जब वो 9 महीने की थी. She had her sold out exhibit at the age of 4 in one of the biggest galleries in New York. 9 साल की उम्र में उसे यूरोप की सबसे रिस्पेक्टेड गैलरी ने एक एग्जिबिट लगाने बुलाया था जो कि 100% सोल्ड आउट हुआ. And then she was awarded the title of world's youngest professional painter. Right now, she earns in millions. She is homeschooled. She never went to a school. And that lady was the cover page of Blub World, and that's Elita Andre. She's just 13 years old as of now. And she was with us just last Sunday talking to nearly 7,000 students from different schools across the world on just this. How do you actually identify your passion and how do you get inspired? Because when teaching does not work, the only option that education has is to inspire. So thank you, people. I hope you enjoyed the last 60 minutes that you spent with us. If you did, and if you want to attend the future sessions, you can open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks 105th episode. Thank you, people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, कैसे लिखेंगे?
Thank you, people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Well organized session. Thank you.